Okay, hello guys, and we are obviously here to learn about World War One and the causes of World War One, which is what we're doing at the moment. So, as you can see, I have been transported back in time, and I'm here in the trench. It's awful. The conditions are horrible. And I really want to know why this happened because, I'm here and it's just striking me that this is just so terrible that I really need to work out why this actually happened. So I'm going to need your help. You need to come along with me. I'm going to go through these causes. Now, I'm going to do this slightly differently to how we've been learning it at school. Rather than going through the causes by theme, those 4 different causes we've been learning about, I'm just going to go through it in a slightly different way. This will hopefully provide a slightly different format. It will help you to apply your other knowledge to this format, and hopefully that will help to cement it in your head and really clarify anything that was a bit confusing for you, okay? So that's what we're going to be doing today, the causes of World War One. Really quick run through, just to get it into your head, make sure it's really, really clear for you. Right. Let's start. So very, very quickly, what you should know is the 4 causes of World War One and what they all mean. So we normally refer to that as main, the phrase main, and each one of the letters refers to one of the causes. Now, these are quite complicated words, so let's very quickly just check we understand them all. We have the M, that means militarism, okay? The idea of building up your army, your navy, your aeroplane, fighter planes, soldiers, any of those things which mean you have more soldiers, you have better, stronger fighting power, okay? A bit like, I guess, these guys behind me. A, the next letter, alliances, friendship agreements with other countries, okay? We will help you, you will help us, that sort of arrangement. I, imperialism, wanting to spread your empire, wanting to bring in other countries, wanting to take over other countries. Okay, think of Britain. Britain had the biggest empire in the world. India, parts of Africa, parts of, I'm having a mind blank, Australia, of course, Canada, loads of places like that were all part of the British Empire. And finally, we come to the N, which is nationalism. Nationalism, being proud, being patriotic of your country, wanting to kind of, increase your strength as a country because you're so proud of it and you believe that you deserve a really high standing in the world because you love your country, okay? So they're the 4 main causes. We obviously then have the trigger cause, like the trigger of a gun. So if I'm shooting a gun, the last thing I do is pull that trigger, yeah? So that's what we call the very last thing to happen, the trigger cause. And that trigger cause, as we know, is the assassination, the murder of Archduke Franz Ferdinand in Sarajevo, which is, a city in Bosnia. And that's the trigger cause, the very last thing that happens. So you might know about all 4 of them by now, you might not. But this isn't going to be done in a way of we'll run through the 4 causes. I'm going to do it a bit differently, but it should be very clear to you, and I hope it really helps. Okay, first of all, I've transported myself to Germany, and I am here with the man himself, Kaiser Wilhelm II, the king, the monarch of Germany at the time. Germany, so a country with very, very high nationalistic feelings. Very, very proud of their country, have quite a strong legacy that they want to build off. In the past, Germany had a very strong army and lots of feelings in Germany that they want to restore that, okay, especially from the Kaiser and those who are high up in the country and the governance. They want to create alliances, particularly with countries like Austria, because they know that they are slightly vulnerable on a world stage. If I move slightly, I've put a map here. Now, we can't see everything, but this is the German Empire. Now, it's very tiny, okay? I'm going to be brutally honest here. German Empire was very small compared to Britain, especially, but also France at the time. France had huge amounts of colonies, especially in Asia, especially in Africa. Britain has colonies all over the world, and Germany doesn't, okay? So they're kind of weaker in that sense. So they want to start building up some alliances, and they particularly want to become allied, and they do become allied with Austria-Hungary, okay? Very close to them in terms of proximity, very similar types of people, you know, a Germanic people. Lots of people speak the same languages, okay? And they are kind of a natural ally. They start to develop quite an aggressive foreign policy. They expand the navy, they expand the army. So there we go, militarism. We've talked about nationalism, alliances, and now militarism in terms of Germany. So they build up that army, they build up the navy. And as this is happening, other places in Europe begin to notice this, and they start thinking this is becoming, you know, a significant threat. We're worried that Germany might lash out, might do something with this stronger army that they've built up. Okay, so I'm just going to give you a moment to have a look at my board here. Yeah, here we go. And just check you understood everything I said. So as I said, nationalism is high, they want alliances, they have an aggressive foreign policy, and Europe notices and wants to, you know, be prepared, be wary in case Germany lash out. So you can pause the video if you want to make some notes, you know, or just take it in and read it as we're sitting here. Okay, on my next trip, I've gone to Britain. So I am standing in front of a map of the world, and we can see Britain is up here. If my finger reaches, there we go, just about. That's Britain there. Now, everywhere else that's red is part of the British Empire. Okay, so as you can see, it's absolutely massive. Britain has an incredibly strong empire. We've got Australia down there, we've got Canada up there, we've got Asia. If I move out the way, we've got Africa. Britain has control of, you know, colonies all over the world. They're very strong, and they want to maintain this power balance. They want to stay the dominant power, especially in Europe. They want to, you know, keep going with the way they are in their very, very strong position. They are wary of Germany's growing navy and army. And in 1902, Germany is actually officially classed as a threat by the Foreign Office. So today, before you go on holiday, you look up somewhere online, and it will tell you what the risks are to going to that country, you know, if we're at war with them, if it's dangerous for various reasons. And in 1902, I guess their equivalent of that, they classed Germany as a threat. So that's quite a significant moment, because it's really showing us that Germany were a problem. Britain, as we know, in terms of militarism, expanding their army, decide to start matching Germany's increasing navy, and they start to build these things. They're called dreadnoughts. This was the naval race that we often talk about, where Britain react to Germany's increased navy, and they start building their own, and then they start building more, and then they start building more, and eventually we get to a situation where both countries have hugely, substantially increased their navies, and Germany has also increased their armies quite considerably. And that is a real moment where we think war becomes much more of a reality, because both sides have these huge armies. What are they going to do with them if not fight each other? Britain has a legacy of having an incredibly good navy. They already have a very strong navy, and they do manage to build lots more of these boats, dreadnoughts, which are the strong boats ready for fighting. So that's Britain. Right, again, I've got the notes here for you. You can have a quick read of them. Main things: power balance, wanting to maintain it, wanting to stay the most powerful empire and country, especially in Europe. Wary of Germany, started expanding their army and navy. We call this the naval race. And from 1902, Germany is an official threat in Britain. Right, I'm going to talk about Austria-Hungary now. Now, this is where things start to get slightly complicated, okay? Because we're going to bring in some new terms which you likely haven't heard before, apart from through lessons. Although I'm talking about Austria-Hungary, I'm actually going to start with Russia, which is this big country up here. My map is actually mirrored, so let me flip it for you quickly. Right, that might be easier to see. The only thing for me is that everything I do is backwards. Wow. Anyway, I can get through this. So Russia, oh, there we go, that arm. Russia is there. Yes, we're starting with Russia. So Russia is led by Tsar Nicholas II at this time, and he believes, just like most people in Russia, especially in the Russian aristocracy, so those people in charge at the top, they believe in an idea called pan-Slavism, okay? Now, pan-Slavism is the idea that Slavic people should be united under one leader, one language, one church. And the reason they think this is because we have lots of countries in this vicinity, in this area of the world, who are all quite similar in terms of, you know, the type of people they are, the way they talk, the way they, you know, go about life and things like that. Now, if I move the right way, there we go, I've got it. I'll just move out the way slightly. You can see on my map why Austria-Hungary might be slightly threatened by this. All the countries in green are countries that are part of the Slavic people, okay? So you've got Bosnia, Serbia, Romania, lots of places like that are all part of the green. Now, where my big red circle is, that shows us where Austria and where Hungary are, which at the time we called the Austro-Hungarian Empire, okay? And they're sandwiched right in the middle. Again, if I try and move out the way, there we go, you can see they're right in the middle there. And they feel quite threatened by this. Because they feel threatened and because they're growing weaker all the time, they annex Bosnia and Herzegovina, which is another country in the area, into Austria. And that's met with a massive outcry. Particularly Serbia is very, very angry about that. And that's really important for us when we think about our trigger cause. So Austria-Hungary is growing weaker. They feel threatened by the Slavic unity around them. Their empire is diminishing. They create an alliance with Germany because of all of this, because they want to feel secure. They're fearful of Russia because it's such a dominant, big, powerful country right on their doorstep. And they annex Bosnia and Herzegovina at this time. Serbia is very, very angry about this. And want to essentially try to encourage an uprising, a rebellion against Austria-Hungary, which is where we're going to get to in a moment with our trigger cause. Okay, so there I've got the notes for you. Have a quick read. Oh, if I get out the way. Yeah, getting all my directions sorted. Have a quick read, pause the video, and then we can move on. Right, this takes us to probably, arguably, you know, the most important event of all, because it does trigger and start this war. Now, I am in Sarajevo, okay, in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and I am here at this historic moment where Gavrilo Princip has been able to attack and shoot the Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophie Chotek. So it's the 28th of June 1914. The Archduke Franz Ferdinand is on a visit to Bosnia and Herzegovina after recently annexing them, making them part of the empire. He's here to look at the imperial army and to inspect things. And on his trip, he is made a target by the Black Hand Gang. Now, the Black Hand Gang is a nationalist group of Serbians who want pan-Slavism to unite those Slavic countries. And what they think their plan is that if we cause a huge moment, you know, if we assassinate, it's irritating me, it's probably irritating you too. There we go. I'm not half disappearing anymore. If we assassinate the Archduke Franz Ferdinand, this will cause so much outrage and anger from the Austro-Hungarians that they'll come down on us really, really hard. And once they do that, if they're really, really nasty and mean and strict and, you know, so limiting and censoring all the freedoms of the Bosnian people and the Serbians who live in these areas within the Austro-Hungarian Empire, maybe all these people will rise up and rebel and will spark a rebellion. Once we have a rebellion, we can get rid of our occupiers, the Austro-Hungarians, and instead we can unite as a Slavic people. Okay, that's their plan. Now, I'm not going to go into all the details because we did, you know, lots and lots of lessons on this, but they have many failed attempts. As you know, the famous sandwich, Gavrilo Princip is on his way to buy a sandwich when the car of Franz Ferdinand takes the wrong route, and he comes across him and he manages to shoot and kill both of the royal couple at the same time. So that's the trigger cause, really. Now, the very last thing I want to talk about, I'll show you the notes for this in just a second, but then after that is, you know, what were Austria-Hungary supposed to do now? Because their heir to the throne has been assassinated by Serbians. They have many routes open to them. They can attack Serbia, they could do nothing, they could do what the Serbians wanted and come down incredibly harshly on the Bosnian Serbian people. But I think that's a really interesting point to think of, you know, because we've thought of all these reasons. Within all this stuff I've talked about, we've had militarism, nationalism, imperialism, and alliances all come up. But why actually does this trigger a war? And that's what we really need to work out. Okay, guys, so there are your notes on the trigger cause. Hopefully you can quickly pause the video if you want to make some notes, or you can just have a quick read of them. I've left it very simple. There is a huge amount more detail to this, which we should have done previously. But for this, just this little recapping explanation video, I've left it very simple. Gavrilo Princip, Black Hand Gang, Serbian nationalists, and they assassinate Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophie on the 28th of June 1914. Right, the last bit of my trip and of your fantastically fun journey through the causes of World War I. I feel a bit rude, I'm in front of George V. There we go. Right, what happens now, okay? So we've got the Emperor of Austria-Hungary, whose heir to the throne has just been assassinated. We have Kaiser Wilhelm II of Germany, and we have George V of England. We also have Lloyd George, who is the Prime Minister. I debated about who to put on this slide, but thought I should put George as he is the king. But obviously in Britain, we have a state where, you know, politics and the Prime Minister still play a huge part in what's happening and what's going on in decisions that are made. So Austria-Hungary is obviously in a position where they've had something quite tragic done to them as a nation. And they want to show military strength. They want to show a strong reaction to this assassination. But they're wary, they're fearful of Russia. Think back to that map I showed you when Russia was huge up here, and then we had Austria-Hungary sandwiched in between these other Slavic nations. So they don't really know what to do. They're wary of offending Russia, of Russia invading them. And so they turn to the only real ally they have, which is Germany. Now, this is the point really where all the marbles kind of go down the right channels and everything falls into place, because Germany, as we know, want to expand their empire, have built up their military, and want to become a more dominant power in Europe. So because these two dots connect with each other, Germany are very, very happy and see this as a very welcome opportunity to go to war. Germany almost used this moment from Austria-Hungary for their own advantage. But if this hadn't been the case, then perhaps we never would have had a world war. Germany were almost waiting for that reason, for that excuse, and Austria-Hungary turning to them in this moment of need when the heir, Franz Ferdinand, was killed and they didn't know how to react or what to do, gives them that opportunity. Britain, as we know, are highly sensitive to Germany. They don't want it to become the dominant power. They're very fearful and worried about that, of losing their position as the most powerful country. And so it was just inevitable that if this war happens, that they're going to be drawn into it. They do also have an alliance with Belgium, where they would come to their aid if they're invaded, as to France. And that's really what pulls Britain and France into the war when Belgium is invaded. Okay, and that is pretty much my summary of the causes of World War I. So militarism, building up your army, Germany starts doing it, Britain then reacts. Nationalism, Germany highly nationalistic, very proud of their country, want it to be stronger. Pan-Slavic countries also very nationalistic. want to unite, which encourages the Serbians to assassinate Franz Ferdinand. Imperialism, building an empire. Germany feel very hard done by because they have the smallest empire. They want a bigger empire to rival Britain, to rival France. That encourages them in that kind of moment of choice with Austria-Hungary, that war is the right course of action. And finally, what have I missed out? Alliances, obviously, the alliance between Austria-Hungary and Germany, the alliance between Britain and Belgium. And there we go. That's how one bullet caused 20 million deaths.